Thank you. So welcome to the penultimate session of this MSR Colloquium 2023. This is a panel discussion on leveraging AI for sustainable development problem solving. We have three panelists, Larry Clay from Marymount University, Jody Fry from Texas A&M, and Dennis Heaton from Maharishi International University, all from USA. As they laid out the objective of this panel is to introduce the application of spirituality and artificial intelligence, especially Chat GPT, as a tool for problem solving in the context of sustainable development. So participants, you will learn basic prompts using Chat GPT to generate innovative solutions, identify potential challenges, and evaluate the ethical implications of employing AI in sustainable development. So truly, as Jody was saying, leaving big questions for the others. This is actually solving problems. Thank you very much. And you may take it away, Larry, if you are the first presenter.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Anil. Just in case anyone on the screen, which is probably most of you, don't know me, I'm Dr. Larry Clay. I'm at Marymount University, which is located in Arlington, Virginia. No, we are not Loyola Marymount in California. That's our brother school, or I should say sister school. I'm an assistant professor at Marymount at the College of Built, Business Innovation, Leadership, and Technology. And I mostly teach strategy and entrepreneurship. I also teach in our new Business Intelligence DBA program as well. Today, what I wanted to do, along with my two panelists that have joined me, and they'll introduce themselves soon, we were tasked with getting some hard practical ways of how we can approach and leverage some of these AI tools like Chat GPT to help us and complement us in problem solving and coming up with some solutions for some of our environmental and even some of our social challenges. So today I can go ahead and share my screen. Oops. There we go. So what we're going to do today for, I guess we are the finale for the event today. We're going to show you a couple of ways that you can approach approaching the AI engine like Chat GPT. I think we'll only be using the 3.5 free version now because it is free. And I'm going to show you some things that are pretty basic. I will say, if you do pay the upgrade for the fee for service level, the $20 a month or whatever it is, you do get the newer version, the Chat GPT 4, which has even more capabilities and even more learning, machine learning instruments embedded within it. So it is one that can take more data. It thinks faster, and it learns a lot faster too. But we've already gone through what the objectives are, so we don't have to go through that. But as I get to the agenda, I would like Jody Fry and Dennis Heaton to introduce themselves and let them know that they're with me, and tell a little bit about themselves before we get into the agenda.
I'm Jody Fry. I'm Regents Professor of Management and Leadership at Texas A&M University, Central Texas. I'm also Program Director of, we have a Master's of Science in Leadership for Sustainability program. And so I direct that program.
And Dennis, can you say a few words?
Yes, I'm at Maharishi International University, where I'm the Dean of the College of Business, teach mostly in the PhD program in management and have taught in an MBA program in sustainable business.
Thank you. Thank you. So we've just checked off the first part of our agenda, just the simple introductions, and we're going to move into a 4-minute video just to get you, and hopefully you haven't seen this yet from yesterday's lectures or earlier this morning, but it's a little 4-minute video that'll somewhat introduce you to this thing called Chat GPT and AI, hopefully to resolve some of the fear that I know that's out there from and anxieties from all of us. Then we're going to somewhat unwrap this whole idea of problem identification and how to approach solution generation through this thing called prompting. And hopefully we can keep it going, and we'll have enough time where we'll be able to actually do some engagement and discussion. And I'll show you, as well as Dennis has an example, as well as Jody, a couple of ways how each of us have approached the prompting and the solutions that we resolve. And we'll have discussion and engagement around that. And then afterwards, we will spend about 15 minutes, hopefully, it usually goes over, to somewhat not only summarize what we've learned here in this session, but Dennis is going to lead us along with Anil to somewhat get some feedback from the whole day, or from the whole 2-day event. So for right now, let's take a look at this video. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I can fix that. Hold on. Right. Few more minutes. All right, for the wow. Oops, it erased it. Well, give me about 30 seconds. Let me pull this up very quickly.
You see, Larry, that AI is already turning us against us human beings.
Already, they're already replacing us. Thank you, Chris. I think that might have been an error on our editing the slides, but I'll pull it up here. And all right.
It's a
All right.
weekend, and John decided to watch the latest movie recommended by Netflix at his friend's place. Before heading out, he asked Siri about the weather and realized it would rain. So he decided to take his Tesla for the long journey and switch to autopilot on the highway. After coming home from the eventful day, he started wondering how technology has made his life easy. He did some research on the internet and found out that Netflix, Siri, and Tesla are all using AI. So what is AI? AI, artificial intelligence, is nothing but making computers-based machines think and act like humans.
Dr. Clay, can you pause it until we get audio?
You all can't hear that?
Future of AI looks promising, with the AI market expected
Oh,
to reach
I'm sorry.
$190 billion by 2025.
You might actually skip this video entirely because John Lass had covered this introduction to AI quite a bit.
Yeah, no one can hear it.
Using your own intelligence.
Maybe you can just
Now
stop
we
the
can.
video then. Yeah.
Oh, you can hear it.
Or
Can you
put
see it?
put it in the chat. The link would be great.
Yeah, just put the chat
Okay.
link in the chat and that's good.
Think about it and leave your answers in the comments section, and we will provide the answer next week. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, a thumbs up would be really appreciated. Here's your reminder to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon for more on the latest technologies and trends. Thank you for watching.
Sorry about that.
and stay
I
tuned
did.
for
I
more
thought the sound was on. Well, thank you for watching that short silent film. So did anyone see anything that was interesting or that made them a little bit more competent of what AI and natural learning and what it's all about? Or any questions from this point?
Well, can you tell us, Larry, what are the 2 or 3 things that you get out of this short video?
Well, it was the difference between what general AI and narrow AI, which is, the more general things that computers and these algorithms can do, and learning how to program, and some of the intricacies that make us think that AI is thinking and learning, but it's actually a relay of information that's going back and forth, created by different libraries searching, seizing, and capturing information. That's what I found out, and that's what I found fascinating about this, is how deep this can go, and how we can create certain simple language so that these engines like Chat GPT can answer a question or bring a solution. And the more that you ask that same question and it doesn't seem to be right, we'll talk about this a little bit deeper as we go. You can ask it a question, and if you've done it enough times, you'll start to notice that Chat GPT usually starts the essay or question, the answer, with repeating what you just asked, and then it somewhat gives you things that are surface level, and it's not a lot of depth, especially for those of us that have the acuity and the intelligence. Now, take that same note and do it repetitively. Just keep on doing it. You can even ask ChatGPT sometimes, just simply say, "Come on, I know you can do better than this. Give me something better than this," and it will reframe some of the language in the essay that it writes, or the solution that it provides. And I'm not sure if any of you have seen, I think it was on ABC Nightly News, where they had an episode with Boston Dynamics and the soccer exercise, where they had robots that had legs, arms, and bodies, big feet at the bottom, kicking a soccer ball. And 2 robots had to learn how to play soccer with the goal of making a goal. It took that AI engine of both robots about 2 weeks of not knowing what to do, just simple kick the ball, and it's kicking the ball, and then they kicking and bumping into each other. And for 2 weeks they did that. And after 2 weeks, one robot was able to make a goal. And then after 3 days after that, I think, both of them were able to go to each end of the goal and actually play the game with the rules embedded in them. So it has the capability, so-called, or the mimicry of learning in machine learning. So thanks, Chris. I love that question. So moving on, we're going to, just in case anyone doesn't have access or needs to jump on to the free version, just check out the link here, chat.openai.com, or you can try the app on your device, and you'll usually start out at this page here, where you'll see examples, capabilities, what are some of the limitations. It's somewhat accurate on what they're displaying here, because quite frankly, with my novice experience with this, it's still in its infancy stage, and it does have some limitations that I see that somewhat minimize my anxiety when I first was approached with this last fall. But now we're in a time where, since all of us, well, I say most of us in society, and this curiosity had somewhat came in a rapid pace, which I think I can almost classify this as a radical innovation. It prompted people to try it out. And there was a new study that was out by Dr. Malik out at Wharton, who's one of the other foremost experts in this, or they call him an AI ethicist. He mentioned that in our society, especially here in the US, it appears to be a bifurcation between those, and I say those of us that are leaning towards embracing AI and the technology, and then you have those that have the fear or want it to stop while we can, before we can't control it. And so between these two, there's a lot of discourse, of course, and I'm sure your university is challenged with this as well, and trying to come up with some type of solutions on how we're going to approach this from an academic level and an academic integrity situation with our students, and using things like these in the classroom. I tell you, if you asked me 4 months ago in the spring, in my classes, I did see quite a few of my students use these technologies in the app to write my essays for the class. And I had mixed feelings about it. But over this past spring and summer, I've gone to a couple of conferences that have made me feel comfortable and reduce some of my fear. So now I won't say I'm all the way, let's keep it going, I'm ready for it, but I am in a place where I'm less fearful of a future, and I'm becoming an embracer more than a fearful one. So let's just check this out just a little bit. And just in case anyone doesn't know, the whole idea where we have the insert here, where you send a message, most people have been toying with or playing with or experimenting with Chat GPT by asking certain questions, probably social questions or questions of curiosity. But the technicians and people in industry, where there was actually a study that was done that actually said that and showed that right now in the management consulting firms, about 38 to 40%, 40+% of industry are already using these instruments to help solve some of their strategy problems, some of their problems. And I wish I had enough time to get one of those guys and join me for this, but I didn't have enough time. But I would like to know some of the ways that they're approaching it, especially when it relates to sustainability. But what we're going to do first, I'm going to show you all what this thing called prompting is about and why it's important. And it's important to the problem identification that you're asking GPT to solve, and how you prompt it makes a difference. So I'm going to show you a prompt that I created and toyed around with. I've done a few iterations of this just to see what solutions come out. And the way that I approached this prompt was I was curious to see what Chat GPT would think, or what would be the solution if we were looking to create a circularity model for the clothing industry, the fashion industry. We set the prompts and set the conditions in your sentence. That's one thing that I did learn from one conference. If you put it into, let's say, prose form like this, or in question form, you want to make sure that you somewhat set some conditional boundaries around it and be as clear as possible for what you want to know, and succinct and concise. So I just simply wanted to know, how do you create a circularity model for the clothing industry? But I put another element into this, and because Jody was so passionate about it, and I agreed with him. You know, what about these companies that are led by leaders, these global leaders that practice spirituality in some form of a model of interconnectedness? And the second sentence gave a little bit more specificity going into the narrowness of AI. And I wanted it to focus on transforming two key areas, which was the supply chain itself and logistics. And that's where we would want to see the most impact when it comes to net zero, because so far, and it's industry dependent. So things that occur in the supply chain and things, of course, that occur in logistics, especially when it comes to global markets and shipping, and everything is using oil and fossil fuels. That's the biggest area of improvement that we can provide for a radical change if we can bring that to net zero. So I'm going to switch gears here, switch cameras, and let you all take a look at my Chat GPT. Can everyone see that? Yeah. All right. And this has no sound, so this should work pretty well. So I'm going to copy. Let me copy the prompt here. Just copy and paste this. Are. And we just put it in sentence form, and we'll send a message. And with the 3.5 version, with what we call succinct, concise prompting, no more than 3 sentences, it doesn't take a long time for it to output. But let's see what came out. So I'll give please tell me if this is large enough for most of you all to read. Can you all read this?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Take a look at some of the things that they put in here. Well, the algorithm put in here. I said they. I'm already giving them power. And please tell me when I can scroll up. But if you do take notice to some of the language that it uses, we're all familiar as conscious agents that a big part of this whole quantum spirituality, this whole movement is about transformation. So I picked up on, I noticed that was one of the first things that it came in this first sentence as a guiding principle. So I do see the smartness within this technology. But if you keep going, you'll see some of our key concepts and key theories that are already embedded in this. connectedness to nature, well-being, stakeholder involved. So it does link itself to multiple libraries, multiple centers of data to come up with some of these simple solutions. And it puts it into either bullet point or into a sequence, so that even if you do think that you want to write a paper on this, for example, or you want to just start to put things together in a preliminary or pre-planning, you can take some of these sections and, okay, take each section, let's say for number 2, supply chain transparency and ethics, take that paragraph, put it down in the chat, and then see how it expands upon on that. You all want to see that?
Larry, I'm going to do that.
You're going to do that?
I'm going to do that in my presentation. Yeah.
Okay, good. So anything that's striking to the group, anything that surprises you about this? Any aha moments? Because as I have been looking at phenomena like this and was curious about circularity, I've done a little research, and these are some of the key things that from the literature that, surprisingly enough, it is important.
Yeah, I'd never heard of circular spirituality. Maybe,
Aha.
I mean, that just popped up, and I mean, I knew social, there would be circular things like circular economy, which is also a part of this, but I'd never heard of circular spirituality, but it certainly makes sense.
Yeah. And I think if I remember that construct, it was somewhat tied with spirituality and emotional intelligence when I took a deeper look at that word, or 2 words together. But it's all the, I would say, basic level things about how do you get to net zero. Like, it's about recycling and finding ways to be regenerative, using or pushing more renewable energy and eco-friendly logistic machinery and engineering. The big thing that we all talk about, using the collective intelligence and collaboration in order, and that's where that circular spirituality comes into play, by fostering and using each other's collective conscious intelligence together. And then just buzzwords, continuous improvement, which should be in any business or project management endeavor. And so it did a decent job. What do you all think? I'm curious to know, do you think that it at least gave preliminary work for you to work on, or did it give you, or did it give you more than you expected? I'd love to hear feedback.
Well, there's one thing I see that it missed in terms of spirituality. It missed the whole, it's embedded in here, but it's an overemphasis on interconnectedness and de-emphasizing the power of purpose. And the 2 go together. They're like heads and tails on a coin.
Yes.
And together, that's where you get the power of spirituality. That's what drives the outcomes. Well, at least, my work, maybe not in your work, but that's how I think about it.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, it's in both of our works. Yeah, so I'd love for you to take the wheel, Jody, and let's try your prompting, and let's see some of the things that you came up with.
Well, thank you, Larry. That was a great introduction. I think, first of all, I'll just really quickly talk a little bit about this whole idea of problem solving with AI. And the way I got into it is I just saw it, I noticed that a couple of my borderline students were all of a sudden turning in some incredible essays. And I'd not really, this was last fall, and I'd not really, or spring, or, and then all of a sudden, as the assignments got more complex, they reverted back to what I'd experienced with them before. And then I was just not not aware of how fast exponentially AI has come on the scene. And then when it did, I have an engineering background, I'm curious. And so I watched some, created a folder on my computer and watched some, educational videos. What's his name from Wharton? He's really good. I'm on his newsletter, so I educated myself. Part of it was on prompts, and so I haven't spent that much time, maybe 10, 12 hours, just kind of learning about prompts and stuff like that. And so the first thing I did is I decided to embrace it, and because I don't think we have a choice. There is a spiritual component to this. I liken this to the serenity prayer. Is give me, help me to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And so I have to operate in the world of acceptance and having a sense of where that is. And that's very spiritual, because if you can't do that, you live in fear. And fear is in the future, and that means I can't be mindful. It clouds my judgment. I have negative emotions. I mean, it is really, and of course, life is that way. And that's just life. I talk about forgiveness, acceptance, and gratitude as being the tripod or the foundation for, my work on spirituality. So, that's what I embraced. This is what I'm going to do. And so, the first thing I did, let me share this. This is a little off topic. I thought I'd share it. I thought, well, I want a section in my syllabus to direct my students. And so, and I've honed this, and now it's in sales, but I said, create a policy for a college level course. And so this is what it came up with: forbidden in circumstances, so permitted use, forbidden use, how to cite AI. APA is not
Jody, I'm sorry. Jody, I'm sorry to interrupt. I can't see a thing. Maybe I'm blind. I mean, I can just see, there's very tiny.
Oh, mine is big. Can you see it now?
It's better. Yes, thank
How
you.
about the rest of you? Can you just barely see it, or can you see it? Is it big enough? Mine's real big on my screen.
Yeah, mine's real big.
Okay. Well, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but one of the things that's interesting about citing AI is APA hadn't really figured it out yet. And so since it goes away, you cite it as a personal communication. And so, I'm giving my students permission to use it and warn them about hallucination, the fact that they're accountable, and if they use it, they have to tell me where they use it, they have to cite it, and I'm going to scare them. And even though Vericide has an AI checker, but it's no good, but I'm not going to tell them that. I'm going to say, you got an AI checker, so you better not, maybe, I don't know how ethical that is, but and then using it ethically and responsibly, learning it as a learning tool, not just content production, and so forth. And I give them 3 links to Chat GPT, Bing Chat, and Google Bard, and say, and basically tell them, you better learn this because your classmates are going to be using it. And you'll be at a competitive disadvantage because all I can grade is what you put in front of me. And so, and then there's none of this, it's either above board or it's not. And the penalties for not being above board are going to be really serious. And so anyway, I just thought I'd share that for you.
And Jody, if I can add to that, one other thing that I learned about this when you're challenging students to either embrace it or to use this, I have a few ways, and we can talk about it off kilter. But there's even ways where you can set your rubrics and give ChatGPT your rubrics, and you can it'll actually test it. It'll actually grade the paper for you, your essays for you.
I've read about that, but I definitely want to talk to you because obviously that's the next step. So anyway, to get now to Let me give you my prompt first, and I'm gonna give you a little background. What I've done, I've done workshops all over, spiritual leadership and now global leadership for sustainability. Let me go ahead just real quick and we published, this was 2 years ago in sustainability, the global leadership for sustainability piece that I draw on now for my work on spirituality and sustainability. Have a section in it on spirituality and sustainability. There's not much literature on it. I'm going to talk about the model in just a second, but we also developed a survey that we've already initially tested and have out under review. So this is where what I'm drawing on. When I talk about spirituality and leadership, I'm coming from the intersection of spirituality and sustainability grounded in this piece. And it's been cited 40 times already. So it's starting to get some exposure. Then I want to go through just briefly, so maybe you'll have a better sense of grounding when I talk about this. The global leadership for sustainability model, which is, as its foundation, has the spiritual leadership model. So it's basically the same model, it's just focused on sustainability. Instead of inner life, we've merged our work on levels of being. Just published a piece, well, it was last year in Journal of Business Ethics, on a framework for leader, spiritual, and moral development that is our latest look at how the levels of being or spiritual journey and how the leader, spiritual, and moral development, how that looks different at different levels of spirituality or the spiritual journey. And the basic proposition is that you have to be at levels 3, which is the gateway, where you commit to presence, to meditation, or however, moment to moment. And as you engage in that, meditation is just the gateway. As you engage in that, you begin to experience, through evacuating your ego programs of happiness, the sense of self-transcendence and interconnectedness that is the foundation for spiritual leadership. There is no spiritual leadership unless you have these values of altruistic love. Well, where do they come from? You don't flip a switch. You have to go through this spiritual journey. And so anyway, if you're interested in that, and it is the driving force for what leadership for sustainability, which is grounded in the values of altruistic love, and then working with others to co-create a vision for sustainability. And this is an intrinsically motivating cycle that, as these two come together, it generates energy or hope and faith to pursue the vision. And in doing so, creates this sense of purpose and this sense of community, the sense of purpose for a sustainable world to work on climate change, for example, and also drawing together a community grounded in these values to support us in that purpose. And what our research on spiritual leadership has shown over 20 years, that it really has significant impacts on a number of variables. And so I hope you don't mind me preaching at you a little bit. So where that takes me then is I want to do, I do a little consulting, not a lot, but I also do workshops at various conferences. And you need to make it feel good. So I always compliment my AI. So my AI is a internationally recognized consultant specializing in working with organizations to be more focused on sustainability. Please outline a program for maximizing the triple bottom line through spiritual leadership to accomplish this objectives. And that is the name of the book we published in 2013, Maximizing the Triple Bottom Line. So it probably is somewhere in the lattice. So what it came up with was a 5-day program. And I'll just hit the high points and I'll get into it in more detail. So first is, what is spiritual leadership? The next is, what is the triple bottom line? People, planet, profit, the importance of it in today's world. What is the intersection of it? That's day 1. Then day 2, how do you foster it? And I do this. I teach a course in leadership formation in my class, in my program. And it's not leadership development, it's spiritual formation. It builds on the work, Del Beck's work. I mean, I am a follower of Del Beck. You know, he's my guru, really. And so I have them do personal mission statements, for example, where they do that. And I'm getting ready to do some work with the Army that's part of what we're going to do with it. And then obviously you're not going to do any of this if you don't promote mindfulness and do, you know, presencing work. Then the whole idea of positive organizational culture, this is the altruistic love aspect of spiritual leadership. So it's pulling it out and it fits, you know, with, and so then how do we apply it? So you talk about, and of course, we've got a lot of research that shows how this works in terms of satisfaction, commitment, employee well-being, spiritual well-being. And then we get into the sustainable practices, profit, balancing financial success with the social environmental pillars of sustainability. And then finally, then implementing it. And I have this whole thing I do with stakeholder engagement, stakeholder analysis, tying that to strategies and goals and information systems and things like that. And then you get into the organizational development interventions that are necessary as you embed these in the culture. So change management, managing conflict. Also do the how do we address anger, resentment, worry, and fear in the workplace through forgiveness, acceptance, and gratitude. That's pretty cool. I like it anyway. And then finally, what do we do for the future? Well, what are the trends? How do we do a personal development plan and then close? And so this is a pretty, you know, I mean, I looked at that and I go, wow, you know, I'll do that. So then what I did was I took section, well, how I forgot. So anyway, I took here I'm an accomplished trainer now. I'm an accomplished employee trainer, develop exercise and activities for the below, applying spiritual leadership to foster sustainability to maximize the triple bottom line. And so I just took day 3. And so enhancing well-being, driving sustainable practices, and balancing financial success. So for enhancing employee well-being, which is the role of spiritual leadership in morale, motivation, satisfaction, we have an exercise values alignment. And so you identify your values with organizational values, enhancing a sense of purpose. And to do it, you list your 5 top values and then discuss the values of the organization. You ask them how they align. Then discuss how spiritual leadership can help in that way. And of course, they've been introduced to the spiritual leadership model. Then there's an activity called, this would be at work. People, you know, you could do this in a particular company. You have Motivation Monday. And so every Monday you host a motivational session where leaders share inspirational stories. And then activities that promotes well-being, exercise, mindfulness, meditation. So you arrange regular mindfulness meditation sessions, how they can help in maintaining mental health. And then you have physical health, fitness challenge. And then driving sustainable practices, green brainstorming. What are some ideas? Your challenge to come up with innovative ways. Discuss how these can be implemented through the support of spiritual leadership. This is where community building would come into place and so forth. And then finally, eco-friendly office work. And then I'm not going to go through all this, but can you practices, a sustainability pledge, profit. I do have a triple bottom line simulation. There's one by Harvard where you have a sustainability initiative and you are the CEO or a major project director, and you have urgent and not urgent scenarios. So they run 4 different scenarios and run that. It's really cool. It's my capstone exercise in my Global Leadership for Sustainability course, which is the capstone. So I'll stop there. I think y'all get a sense of kind of what I'm talking about. But all this stuff, I may, you know, I mean, I can put it to use right now. Now, I'd have to obviously modify it and bring it into, but in effect, the models, it reflects the model, the theories, models, methods, and tools that I have developed. We have developed, I haven't developed it all, but that we have developed over the years. And so it's something that I find very useful. So this is kind of how, you know, you start with a general prompt and you can take a piece of it and get it to be more action oriented. And so I'm kind of amazed, really. You know, I just did this last week. Sam did it. So.
Thank you, Jody. I loved it. And I wanted to ask you if, because I somewhat wanted to scare you just a little bit more. Have you tried to actually use some of the constructs from your study, the global sustainable leadership, and use that specifically as a leader that exemplifies?
No, I just, you know, I knew we were going to do this and I had to get something done, and this is what I came up with. Yeah.
I would be interested.
But that's a great, you know, the
directly from
rubrics
your
and
study.
the next, and to take that and see what it came up with, because that piece, I think, and this is Chat GPT 4 I use. And so, but I thought it stopped in early 21 in terms of its database. But that doesn't mean anything. The piece wasn't published till June 21. But yeah, that's a great thing to do. And I'm writing a piece now on leadership of multi-sector partnerships for transformative leadership, multi-sector partnerships for sustainability. You know, and of course, I'm like a little kid with a hammer. You know, let's take this model and let's make it more general, where there's really no hierarchy. It's shared leadership. How do you bring people together, you know, to truly create multi-sector partnerships, trying to create significant social or environmental change? What leadership will do that? And I think I'm going to follow your advice. I'm going to start doing that because I'm in the middle of that right now. And so that's great. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I would love to see how much of just your study it pulls from.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, you share the rubric and stuff.
I will. I'll push it. I'll push
I
over.
appreciate that. Thank you. I'm taking up too much time. We need to give Dennis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be nice to shift to third presenter because we're short of time. Thank you.
First of all, I want to say that was very impressive for me. And it's a demonstration of how to use Chat GPT 4 as a productivity aid, particularly in the teaching profession. Ask it to, you know, generate an outline for a program, or ask it to create some exercises. And then, of course, you can edit that as you want, but it quickly gives you a idea generation. I'd like to hear what other people thought and what they got out of seeing that demonstration. Somebody else would like to comment? Okay.
I mean, I don't want to be the only one talking, but I guess I am. I mean, again, right when that came up, I thought this is so clever and a great starting point, you know, because otherwise I'd have to spend all the time doing that. I could never come up with all of the data that was used or in the algorithm to make this. So it's definitely now on my to-do list as far as a tool for designing workshops.
I see Sheldine has her hand up. Did you have a comment?
Go ahead.
Geraldine, you're on mute. Please unmute.
Bless you. Thank you. I really appreciated the discussion around sort of the ethical principles that were developed for use with students and sort of this interactive approach to using Chat GPT. I just want to say briefly, I had this very kind of disorienting experience just a couple of weeks ago. I was asked to do a peer review of an article for a journal. And I agreed to do it. And I normally just start at the beginning and read right the way through. But partway through, there were just these little subtle, at first it was really drawing me in and I was kind of on board with the model that was being developed. And then partway through, there were these little subtle contradictions or ambiguities maybe. And I was thinking, maybe I'm just not understanding what the authors are saying. So I decided to go to the articles that they were citing. And the articles were so plausible, like real journals, real sounding names that were not just kind of like John Smith, like, you know. And when I looked up the articles, found the journals, found the volume, found the issue number, no articles by those names and no article by that title. And I thought, gosh, that's unusual. And so I went to the first, I kind of picked the first 15 and found another unusual pattern, which was, you know, citing a chapter in a book that was written by so the book existed. The chapter was supposedly by the two editors of the book, but that chapter didn't exist in that book. And then there were, you know, so it was just this kind of unraveling of the article in it. It actually, I'm not really experienced with Chat GPT. I'm at the beginning of my journey with this, but it was, you know, I think it was, I wondered if someone had used Chat GPT either in a revision process or to help write the article and hadn't really interacted with it, like hadn't really, anyway, I just wanted to point that out because it was very disoriented. I ended up writing a letter to the editor, just documenting what I had found and what the particular concerns were in that respect. But, oh, Tom's saying he's found the same thing. Thank you, because I really felt like it wasn't just a Chat GPT hallucination. I was starting to question my own sanity for a little bit in there when I was doing that review. But anyway.
I think this
Dennis,
conference,
why don't you go ahead, Dennis?
I will. I knew we wanted to get some engagement before we run out of time today. And a conference like this is a chance for people to share their experiences and also probably within your own institutions or communities of practice. You know, you can get together and keep sharing and learning from each other. I will share something here. So we've looked at how appreciative, excuse me, artificial intelligence can be used for sustainability, and the way the prompts are written can incorporate the word spirituality, and that can make a difference. All right, next slide, please. Going to start over here. Okay, this quotation is from Fry and Eagle's 2021 article, which I think is something Jody Fry just mentioned, Leadership for Sustainability. By whatever name, something akin to spiritual renewal is the sine qua non of the transition to sustainability. Sine qua non means without which not, without spirituality, sustainability won't be possible. So the discussion question I'm raising is, what difference will it make using appreciative inquiry for sustainability with using artificial intelligence for sustainability? I've looked at AI so long, doing appreciative inquiry, excuse me, without spirituality or not considering spirituality, or adding to our thinking, adding to our prompted Chat GPT. What difference does it make if we say with consciousness and spirituality? And I put this prompt to Chat GPT 3.5 on July 22nd. And without considering spirituality, it came up with bullet points and then elaborations on each of those, which I don't have time to talk about, but it says appreciative inquiry, artificial intelligence can help us focus on efficiency, environmental impact and conservation, economic growth and development, policy and governance, and technological advances. And Larry gave an example of a supply chain, reducing emissions or reducing waste in a circular economy. And then if we put the same prompt out there and saying, and considering spirituality and consciousness, then it brings it up with somewhat different responses, that the approach to sustainability is a holistic approach that takes into account ethical considerations. I think we saw some of that as well in the prompts that were used by Larry and Jody, that you get into considerations like stakeholders and well-being, and a long-term perspective, human-centered development, and mindfulness in the technology use. So I think the challenge to us is, how are we going to bring spirituality into the teaching and practice of sustainability with work like Jody Fry has done, so that in the collective consciousness, in the body of stuff that gets out there into these machine learning models, something more enlightened is going to show up as the output. The input is coming from us. The input is coming from collective consciousness of society. And as we elevate our own consciousness and teach in ways that elevate consciousness of society, then we're going to get more enlightened responses out of the artificial intelligence. So the human element is still critical to whether artificial intelligence is going to bring us a better world or whether it's going to bring us danger. I do think I have a cautionary view of it, that any technology that is based on partial knowledge creates undesired side effects. The more our environment is shaped by technology, the more imbalances are created in terms of sustainability. And there can be risks from greater incorporation of any technology, and especially artificial intelligence. So the importance of developing consciousness and consciousness-based education and transforming the learner become even more important as there are more powerful technologies available to mankind. So that's what I have to say. Now we want to know what everybody else is thinking. There are 18 minutes before the end of this session, and then Neil can put us into breakout.
What is the takeaway? What is the question to discuss?
Just ask people to summarize key ideas and takeaways from this session or from the conference as a whole. It's kind of a wrap up.
Yeah, let's broaden it to the whole for the whole consortium for 2 days. So some may have attended this or that. Okay. So I'm
Yeah.
going to put you in 4 groups of 4 or 5 each.
And
go.
if we have, let's say, 10 minutes in a group, we'll have some time.
10 minutes, 10
back.
minutes. 4 to
And
5
then
people.
when we come
discuss.
back, we can have some groups report out and also let Anil make some concluding comments. So a moment to compose your own thought. Maybe the first minute is just quiet, thinking right. And then a couple minutes, if there's 4 in a group, each person share some ideas or interact a bit, but knowing that you're just going to have 10 minutes and then we're coming back.
Okay. So I'm going to open rooms, 4 rooms, about 3 to 4 people each. There you go. Jean Michelle, did you get a group assignment or no? All right, we have 5 minutes for debriefing. Anybody wants to share?
I just want to say I thought the entire conference was really very interesting. I had my doubts at the beginning. Are we going to do a whole thing just on artificial intelligence? But I mean, it was really interesting. So I really liked it. What can you say what this next one is at the end? It looks there's another session. What is that about?
That's the last keynote speech by Anirban Bandyopadhyay. He's a quantum physicist, quantum tunneling expert. So he'll bring a culture, a view of time and layered sense of time and how AI can and neuroscience and spirituality can relate to everything. Fascinating. He's an amazing speaker, Nobel level, I feel.
When is that?
It's
It will be in about half hour.
about a half hour.
And Neil, if I could just give 2 little last minute words from our presentation. The first one is in the chat, I just added an additional prompt to share with you all. Didn't have enough time to get through it, but one of the things that my IT AI person at Marymount shared when he talked about approaching it is to give Chat GPT a persona. And the way that you can approach it is, if you take a look at the chat, is to simply give Chat GPT a role. You give it a role, you give it a project or a goal, you set some limitation boundaries, you give it a target audience, what type of desired outcome you want, and then give it either some inspirations or examples so it can somewhat get an idea of what you're talking about. And this was useful because they used, well, I say they, the IT guys used this to create code. And he showed me an example where the role was a software developer.
Thank you. Larry, we just have a couple of minutes.
Sure.
Let's hear some reflections from people, if it's okay. Mahmood, you've been listening in off and on. What is your
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for. I was just talking with my group about like almost cover everything, and this is just the beginning of the AI. It defines who we are, what is our intelligence according to our understanding, and it's almost like replicate what we have as a brain. But the question will remain like how we will adapt to these changes, and how we will redefine ourselves, that our brain is not ourself, that we are something beyond that. So these 2 questions were raised as a gap from all this discussion.
Thank you. Konstantin, you wanted to talk earlier, then you could not, right? Did you want to share? I remember you had raised your hand.
Yeah, I shared it in the group. Well, overall, I'm just thankful for the opportunity to take part in this. It was insightful, especially the opening session on gave a good up-to-date overview on AI. I think what from my perspective, what been missing maybe, or not enough time spent on ethics, ethical considerations. Yes, Chat GPT is great, and AI is all around us, but as we've learned, AI is not artificial. It's built by humans and has been built over many years, decades, and now we see the outcome, and we all benefit from that. But if we kind of don't appreciate the people who build it through proper citations and through proper copyright acknowledgement, then it's not going to be very sustainable. It's going to crash at one point. So AI or Chat GPT has its limitations intellectually, let's say, academically. But I would be surprised if there wouldn't be more restrictions in the future in regards to copyright. So I'm curious to see where that goes, but I think we all have our part to do in keeping the ethics up, and yeah, make use of it, but help direct it ethically through being ethical ourselves.
Okay, thank you. Ravi, then Lee, and maybe everybody can just share now that you're discussing group also. Let's take an extra few minutes. If Ravi, just briefly, just in 30 seconds.
Yeah, briefly, in our group, we talked about the foundational conceptual flaw that is cutting across the basic theme of the conference. And let me state it very simply. We are treating AI as a monolith, but there are really different AIs in action. There's AI for language processing, there's AI for healthcare, AI for education. All of these are very, very different. But throughout the conference, we are talking about AI as one monolithic thing and ignoring its diversity in being. AI exists in diversity, whereas spirituality, on the other hand, is the exact opposite. So we're trying to, pull two realms and then trying to understand their connections. So I found a bit.
Good point. Good point. Narrow AI versus broadest general spirituality. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, Manjula, you've been attending off and off. Maybe could you share some points? Anirban has joined. He's our speaker for the next session. Welcome, Anirban. Anyway, who else wants to share? Dennis, is this the only session attended, or unmute yourself, please, maybe.
I attended John Lass's session, and as you pointed out, he also spoke at our university, and we're going to be continuing to work with him on incorporating into our educational research the transformative possibilities of generative AI.
Thank you. Jody, or your summary comments? You attend probably half the sessions at least. Unmute yourself, please.
One thing that strikes me is the diversity of the topics. Yes, it treated AI as a monolith, that's true. I think the main thing is, on one level, it was a lot spent on the high level ontology, philosophy, and I just encourage us to not get too wrapped up in that, but really focus on our sphere of influence and how we can make a difference in the human arena within our own sphere of influence, rather than railing against what we can't control.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Sangeeta, Sheldon, Corinne, you already spoken. So Sangeeta or Sheldon or Manjula. Okay, so Sheldon wants to sign off. Sangeeta, did you want to add any comments? And then Lee, maybe Lee will have the final word.
Sure. I think, just generally speaking, again, this was a really fantastic symposium, and just the diversity of topics was great. Again, the one thing a question that keeps on popping up in my head, and, we talked a little bit about this in our chat room, is sort of like the implications of utilizing, AI academic research in, corporations and organizations, and how do we tie that back to spirituality? And, I think someone brought up a point about McKinsey now starting to look at research on how to incorporate spirituality in the workplace, which is great, but I don't think it has really kind of taken leaps and bounds in terms of really, in having that engaged in most of the workforce, right? Like, it's slowly getting there, but not in a rapid rate. So that's something I would love to explore. But otherwise, I thought this was really just to meet everybody here, and the diversity of thought was incredible for me to take notes and reflect on.
Thank you. Thanks. Anyone else? Going.
You, Anil?
What's that?
What about yourself?
What do I think? I think is very energizing. We addressed the notion of AI, took it head on, and brought it in MSR. So at least we felt that, to use Corinne's word, the they were discussable, and the discussions went wherever they went. Certainly, there was this idea that Jerry was keeping on pushing, almost as if I was prompting him to push, which is how do you bring them together? How do you bring them together? And sort of this whole art model of sort of this thing, to me, that was a big aha, that you can connect that. Dennis, isn't that the level of speech you have, Vaikari, Madhyama, and all the stuff? There's a silent, subtlest level of communication, the coarse level of communication. AI is very much at the coarse and gross level of communication. The question is whether it will evolve and develop that sort of nuanced understanding that we're all talking about, and sort of not hallucinate and just validate itself instead of us having to validate. And then it will become truly that. So that is one big aha for me, that sort of everybody together. And second, I think the attendance was very good. We had 60, 70 people in some sessions, 40, 30, depending on how the topics were. And and the people stayed on, the engagement was fantastic. So that can, it's an enriching experience for us, and sort of enlivening if everybody stays on and engages. So those are a couple of things. Good participation. We had about 240 attendees, and attendance was anywhere from 70 to 30 people. I found very interesting that I was giving a tutorial yesterday in the evening. It was like, whatever time, and then I thought nobody will join because who cares? But 20 people came in and went on for longer than what I thought it would. And we took some Chat GPT, we took some Journey, created some images. Corinne was there, others were there. So it was just fantastic to really see, and Jerry, you were there, and some others were there. And so that was good that, for some people, like Corinne's first main point you said was the lost fear. And I think that session was probably a big part of that whole fear, that, we can deal with it. So anytime we can demystify these technologies and help people sort of be able to tackle it with both arms and dig your nails into it, and then being able to engage, that I think that's probably the purpose of this whole thing. And again, it's up to you how you think it was accomplished. I felt very energized. I'm pretty alert even now. And I'm really, really looking forward to Anirban's talk. Anirban just completely throws us out of the ballpark, and he will do that again. Manjula, did you want to share something? Thank you, Dennis, for asking.
No, I just loved everything, and thank you for organizing it and making it virtual so we could attend it. It's just been great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So with that, so we have about 20 minutes. I'll just take a break.
Did you want to hear from Lee? Did you have anything to say, Lee?
Yeah, Lee said no. Lee.
Oh, he declined.
I don't know if he's in the
Right. Lee, I think he's not there. I asked him maybe, so he's
All right.
on a break.
Thanks again, Neil.
Thank you.
And everyone.
Thank
Larry.
you.